Hey YouTube, I'm Ali, welcome to the channel. I'm super excited today because today is the very first time I'm going to do a game review, and that game is Agatha Christie's Death on the Cards. Now, if you're familiar with my channel, then you'll know that I'm quite methodical in my approach, and that's no different from this review. I'm going to be using the methodology and the way of describing games that I've previously talked about, which you can catch up on up here somewhere. But if you don't want to do that, don't worry, you don't have to. Everything should be very, very obvious to you. Let's kick things off by understanding exactly what this game's about, what the aim is, what you get inside it, and then we'll break down all the individual bits to understand whether this game is suitable for you or not. Everyone in this game has secrets, the biggest one of which is that one of us is a murderer. If you're the murderer, then your role in this game is to avoid suspicion and finally, ultimately, escape. For everyone else, the idea is to catch that murderer before he escapes, all the while trying to keep your own socially destructive, society-ridiculing secrets quiet. So what do you get in the box? Well, here is the box. It's a nice small compact box. Not too much wastage at all, which is awesome. It's got a little magnetic clasp with those little earth magnets that you get, so it flicks open. I guess they maybe have missed a little trick because I've got some great games like Tortuga, I think is one example, where the box itself is actually a book, and that would have been quite nice. The novels of Agatha Christie in book form, in card form, that would have been quite cool. But anyway, nice small box, perfectly usable, contains the bare minimum of things that you need to play the game, which is exactly what you want. You don't want loads of wasted space. What do you get inside? You get a fold-out set of instructions, the rules, and then you get the cards themselves. I'm going to take them out and just describe them in a little more detail. You get a murder escape card. This goes at the bottom of the draw deck, and that's how the murderer knows that he's won, because he's managed to escape. You also get these 6-player aids, which describe the how to play rules just there. Let's put them in there. Now, everyone's going to get 3 of these secrets. One of these secrets is you're the murderer. One of them is you're an accomplice if you're playing the 6-player game. But then you've also got these other faux pas, in effect, social faux pas that are lauded as these terrible, terrible secrets, including things like I've never kissed anyone and I'd murder for a cup of tea, which I thought was rather funny. The other main set of cards you get, and this is what forms the draw deck, are the Death on the Cards, or the main deck. Now here you have a number of different kinds of cards. I'm going to turn these up the other way so you get to see them. You'll have instant action cards like Stop You Fiend, Not So Fast You Fiend, event cards which usually result in a secret being revealed or the deck being manipulated in some way. They can be stopped by a Not So Fast You Fiend card. Again, I love the names that have been used here. And then there were none. And then there was one more as opposed to and then there were none. You're also going to get detective cards. Detective cards are the other kind of cards you get in the draw deck. These form your sets. This example here of bundle means you need to get 2 matching cards to be able to use her permanently in the game as a variable player power. I'm using that term far too often in this video and I can't say it properly. Anyway, detective cards are the 3rd kind of cards you get, and I think that's it. Lots of different characters that you may recognize if you're a fan. I hope you can see these. If not, I'm sorry. There's one other type of card, and that's the devious card. You can fool people by passing them this card instead of... so there are various cards that ask you, event cards that ask you to pass cards around. And one of the things you can pass around is a devious card, which again reveals a secret. So those are the cards. Beautifully drawn, I think. Perfectly readable. Though I will say, and I say this later on, there are a couple of instructions that are given on the cards which seemed a little unclear to us. And it took a little while for us to agree how they should be understood. But that's what you get in the box. You get your how to play, you get your secrets, murder escape underneath, rule set, and the draw deck. So playing the game is pretty straightforward. Here I've got the game set up as if it's been played halfway through. Every player will have 6 cards they will keep in their hand. It's basically the draw deck in your hand. On front of them they will also have 3 secrets. Here are my 3 secrets: the prankster, j'accuse, and I'm the murderer. In fact, you will have these placed in front of you face down, shuffled up, but ready to be accessed by yourself when you need to. You have your draw hand, like I said, 6 cards at all time, your how to play rule set, and then you have the draw deck, which is here, a discard pile next to it, and then, as so often is the case in card draw games now, you'll also have a 3 selection draw selection. 3 selection, draw selection? Yeah, whatever. You have 3 cards that you can also draw from. So each round you can either draw from the deck or you can take a card that's visible to everyone. Each turn, you're allowed to do 1 of 3 actions, and then you're allowed to discard as many cards as you want and re-pick up cards from the draw pile, either the draw pile or those 3 there. Every time you take a card from here, you have to replace it immediately. So let's have an example of what we could do. The 3 actions we're allowed to do is either play an event card. For example, I might want to play this card here, which is Look into the Ashes. Now, any event card when you play it can be stopped by the instant Not So Fast You Fiend, and in fact you can retaliate to the Not So Fast You Fiend with your own Not So Fast You Fiend, and in fact anyone else can join in, so you could have multiple people telling you not to be so fast you fiend. Anyway, let's go back to this. We're going to play our event card and assume no one's interrupted us. This allows me to look at the discard. This particular card allows me to look into the discard pile and take from it a card of my choice. Once you've done that, you would put this card into the discard pile. There are a few event cards that are quite powerful, and they explicitly ask you to remove them from the game. Now, the other thing you can do is you can put down a single detective card to an existing set of detective cards. So detective cards are those variable player power cards, sets that you're looking for. In this case, Mr. Satterthwaite. He requires 2 Mr. Satterthwaites to make the set complete and therefore activate him. Hercule Poirot here, for example, requires 3. Now, I can add 1 detective card to an existing set of detective cards as my second action. So let's pretend I didn't do the event. Let's pretend I do this instead. That would be my go over and done with. I now have 5 cards. I can either choose to draw from here or from here. The third action you can take is you can play a complete set. So if I have, let's pretend, now, as it happens, Harley Quinn, especially if you know the character, allows you to do all kinds of things. He acts as if he's one of the detectives. So in this case, Mr. Satterthwaite's set would be complete. He would then be active and usable. So let's go to our third action. So I talked about event card. I talked about adding 1 card at a time. The third activity is to actually utilize that. And again, the power that they bestow is described on the card. So Mr. Satterthwaite, for example, will allow me to choose a player and reveal a secret of my choice. If it's, and in fact it has a consequence if I play Harley Quinn with it, then I can actually add that secret card face down to my own secret. So that combination is pretty darn powerful. Now that is really the game. The idea is if you're the murderer, which is in this case, if you remember from my previous bit, is me, then my aim is to get down through this deck as quickly as possible to get to murder escapes and win the game. I could do that simply by discarding as many cards as I can, as quickly as I can, but then I would be arousing, there we go, suspicion. Everyone else's job is to ensure that they hold on to their secrets, maybe gather a little stack of secrets, they stop their own secrets being revealed perhaps, but most importantly, they keep that deck from disappearing too quickly. Now, this was a licensed game, so it relied heavily on making sure that the theme shone through, and it really did well in that. I loved the way they captured that 1920s Art Deco kind of high society vibe. I loved the characters that I recognised from Agatha Christie's writing, even Bundle, who wasn't a major character, I thought, but was great to see her in there. I love the fact that cards themselves have slight puns on them, for example, and then there was one more, as opposed to and then there were none, or cards off the table instead of cards on the table. And although it's not a pun on a novel name, we all really enjoyed saying "Not so fast, you fiend" every time we got to play one of those cards. So on to the business of describing the actual game. And let's start with audience. Now this game is about murder, but it's done in quite a cartoonish, tongue-in-cheek kind of way. Now I'm not advocating that means it's okay for very young children, but neither am I saying that it's actually very adult themed. I would put this in the family bracket, and that's what I'm going to describe it as, a family game. In terms of number of players, that's quite interesting. The game is described as being playable between 2 and 6 players, but the game actually changes depending if you're playing a 2-player version, a 3 to 5-player version, or the 6-player version. In the 2-player game, you already know who the murderer is, so really the game plays almost like Uno. One person that the murderer is trying to tear through the deck and escape, and the other person's trying to stop him. In a 6-player game, you introduce an accomplice to the murderer, and the accomplice doesn't know the identity of the murderer, but he is trying to help them. In the 3 to 5 player, that's the core of the game. You're just trying to work out who the murderer is, stop them going through the deck, whilst the murderer is trying to go through the deck and keep his secret hidden. So what's the ideal number of people to play this game? Well, like I said, because it plays so differently, I'm going to say either 2, 4 or 6. But really time will tell. How long did the game take? Well, when we played 2-player, it took about 15 to 20 minutes per game. When we played the 4-player, we were playing around 30 to 35 minutes per game. I would imagine the 6-player might take a little bit longer. What type of board game is this? Right, well, it's very clearly a card game, and actually it's quite compact. There are only 2 big sets of cards that you need to rely on. So this is something you could play whilst travelling, maybe on a train or an aeroplane even. In terms of the complexity or depth, well, I can't say it's a very deep game. There are definite strategies that you could use in this game, and it's not completely without some meaningful decisions, and we'll come on to that in a minute. But really, it's quite an average kind of game for complexity. In terms of explaining the rules, when we first got the rules, it took me about 15 minutes to read through and understand enough to be able to play the game. Thereafter, it took me, on average, under 3 minutes, I would say, to explain the rules to someone else. And again, by my own definition, under 3 minutes means it's average complexity. In terms of skill versus luck, well, okay. I would say it's fairly balanced, but in reality, there's probably a little more luck than there is skill. You are kind of dependent on the kinds of cards that come up before you can apply any strategy. So really, it's kind of balanced, but I would say it's tending more towards luck than it is skill. In terms of interaction, the majority of the game is very much a direct conflict kind of game. You are directly targeting someone, pointing fingers and saying you're the murderer. In fact, there's a card that actually does that. However, you could argue that because you've got the accomplice in there as well, there is a little bit of cooperation. And again, you can take that logic to whether this is a team-based game or a single-based game. I would predominantly say it's a single-player game. You're playing for yourself, though you could argue that in a 6-player game, the accomplice and the murderer are working together. Though, because they don't necessarily know each other, maybe it's not so much team, it's still single. Now, when it comes to the mechanics of the game, well, you could say that there are elements of card drafting, there's hand management, and there's some pattern recognition. But in reality, this game relies heavily on the traitor mechanic, as well as 2 other things that I would say are significant, and that is set collection and variable player power. God, that's a mouthful. Variable player power. There we go. And the reason I'm putting those last 2 mechanics in play here is because part of the game revolves around you identifying key characters that will aid you in uncovering secrets, and that changes the dynamic a little yet again, so you're not all on equal footing. So that's my description of the game. Let's now turn to whether or not I think this actually made a good game in the first place. We understand what the aim is, we understand how to play it, we understand the description. Is it actually worth getting? Did I enjoy this game? So in summary then, a great game. Yes, I would recommend this game. Yes, I would play the game again. I am a fanboy of Agatha Christie and that genre, but I still think Modiphius who created the game, have done a great job in bringing that to life and portraying that Agatha Christie vibe all the way through the game. It was a lot of fun to play, and I will definitely be playing it again. If you don't take my own recommendation, I'm hoping the structured way I've approached this, and this is my first game review, has been really useful to you. In a short summary though, if you just want to take something away, I think if you like Secret Hitler, if you liked Avalon, if you liked The Resistance, then you should definitely check out Death on the Cards. But for now, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you thought of it. If you did enjoy the video, please subscribe. And until next time, guys, take care. Variable player power. How hard is that to say?